Hey, mighty men of God, Joe Martin here with Real Men Connect, where we help good men become godly men by connecting them to successful husbands, great fathers, and strong leaders. Guys, we're doing our Real Man Ride Along today, and I'm addressing probably a topic and an issue that's very difficult. And here's the topic. What do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you do when you don't know what to do? What do you say when you don't know what to say? How do you respond when you don't know how to respond? Now, it's not a question that we typically ask ourselves, at least verbally, but subconsciously. When we're faced with difficult situations where we feel like our backs are against the wall, whether it be in conflict, in responding to difficult situations on the job, in the home, in our relationships. So I wanted to share some advice with you. Some humble advice, because this has worked for me, but I'm not necessarily saying it will work for everyone else, but I'm waiting for someone to show me that it doesn't work. And so I wanted to share this with the men out there, because a lot of you can relate to this particular issue when you are a Christian and you're trying to be a godly man, but then you're faced with some situations in the world that you don't know what to do. You know that you must trust God in all things. But how does that manifest itself in practical application? So I decided to share with you some advice that I hope that will bless you. And basically, here's what it is, and then I'll give you a direct example of how it is applied, and hopefully you can get some revelation in how you can apply it to whatever situation that you're facing. Well, the simple answer to the question, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Well, I have what I call a default button that I press when my back is against the wall. And it's basically two things, and it's pretty simple. Now, we also know that the things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. So even though the solution is simple, the application sometimes can be a little bit more difficult. So here's the solution. When you don't know what to do, what to say, how to respond, how to act when your back is against the wall, you will never go wrong if you do two things. One is humble yourself. Humble yourself, number one. And number two is to honor God in your response. That's it. Humble yourself, number one, and then honor God in your response. Now, as simple as that sounds, let me give you an example, a practical application, and I'm going to be very transparent and vulnerable with you to share this with you. One of the toughest things I ever had to do was to endure going through a divorce. I do not wish that on anyone, especially after you've been married for 16 years and you knew the person for 20 years. And especially when it was your fault that you went through the divorce. So when my ex-wife and I went through our divorce after being married for 16 years, and it was my fault primarily, we decided to throw in the towel and not try to repair it, because we thought, or at least we agreed, that it probably be in the best interest of our child, who at the time was 9 years old, that this would be in his best interest because we couldn't make it work. Now, I know now that that's not the greatest philosophy and the greatest advice to give someone, but let me tell you when I had to apply this particular principle and how it has blessed me, even though I had to still endure a divorce. When we made the announcement that we were going to get a divorce after 16 years, my son was 9 years old at the time, we were at the kitchen table. And my ex-wife told my son that we were going to get a divorce. Now, he didn't understand all the details of what had happened prior to us making that decision. But he was so devastated by the news, because we had just rocked his world. He had thought, from observing our marriage, that we had a pretty good marriage. And on the outside looking in, we did. But he didn't realize there were things going on in the marriage that he did not know about. So at 9 years old, we couldn't tell him everything. But all he knew is that he had this news that his parents were not going to work this thing out, and they were going through a divorce. And my son didn't realize on that day that he was going to change at least my life. Because when we told him the news and she broke the news to him, we're all sitting at the table, at the dinner table, my son literally fainted. I mean, he fainted. He passed out. Because he was so devastated and shocked, and it's even emotionally, as in years now, it's been years since that happened, and it's still I will never forget that day. Well, he fainted and he passed out at the table, and we had to grab him because he literally could not control his physical body. And when he finally came to and he regained consciousness, my son rocked our world because he looked at both his mom and me, and my son asked a question that I wasn't prepared to answer. And he asked a question. He says, with tears in his eyes, can't God fix this? That was his question. Can't God fix this? See, he had grew up in a Christian home where we went to church on a regular basis. We talked about the Bible. We talked about God. But at the same time, he did not understand how a marriage could end after 16 years from people who, quote, believed in the Bible and believed in God. So it wasn't a question that we were anticipating. And so his question to us, can't God fix this? So, of course, I'm shocked by the question. So I look at my ex-wife and expecting her to have a response. She bowed her head down with nothing to say. And then my son looked at me. And that moment changed my life. Because my son looked at me expecting an answer from his dad, who he looks up to and he admires and respects. And remember I told you, if you don't know what to do, what two things should you do? One, you humble yourself. Two, you honor God in your response. So I said a quick prayer, and I took the first step, and I humbled myself. And I told my son, yes, son, God can fix this. Yes, he can. And I took the next step. I humbled myself, and then I honored God. And I said, but we're too selfish to let him. That was my answer to my son. Yes, God can fix this, but we're too selfish to let him. I had to swallow my pride, humble myself before my son and God, and get on the cross, because my son was ready to blame God for our selfish decisions. My selfish decision to devastate my marriage, my ex-wife's selfish decision to say this is not worth fighting for. And we both decided that we were going to allow this marriage to end. But I say it changed my life, because from that point forward, after my son realized it, because I did not want him blaming God for our selfish decisions, I decided from that point forward that I was going to fight for my marriage, even though it was about to end. And I'm here to tell you, and a lot of times we don't want to share the whole story as Christians. I fought for my marriage, and I mean literally fought for my marriage, and I didn't win. And so most people say, see, that's why I don't believe in the God you serve, because how come God didn't fix your marriage? Well, it takes two people to do that. And I understood that even though things did not turn out the way I wanted them to, didn't turn out perfectly for me, God works all things together for good, even if it doesn't look good. And because of my decision to honor God and humble myself before God and my son, to this day now, my son and I have a great relationship, and God has shown me grace and mercy by allowing me to meet my present wife now. And we both try to humble ourselves and honor God in everything that we do. So guys, I apologize for the length of this video, but I think it was worth sharing with you. When your back is against the wall, you don't know what to do, how to act, how to respond, you would never go wrong if you honor God and you humble yourself and you honor God in your response. So guys, that's our real man moment in our ride along. So remember that we're males by birth, but we are men by choice. And we have to make that choice, because a male is a terrible thing to waste. Until next time, be blessed and stay in his grip. God bless you.